welcome to this vlog. Today I've come out to this meadow area. It's like an open area in my local forest. It's a place with a lot of biodiversity, with a lot of different plants and trees and stuff. So a few months ago I decided to start doing some seasonal time lapses from out here to show this natural meadow area going from early spring and into the summer. Today it's the end of May, so quite close to how it will look in the summer. So today will be my last day of shooting seasonal time lapses from out here before finishing the project. I thought that I would just take you along, show you how I do. So the first thing I'll do is I'll have to line up my shot from the shot that I did last time I was here, about 10 days ago. What I've done is I've saved the photo from last time I was here onto the memory card on the camera. I can just preview that and line up my shot today to have the exact same framing as last time, because I'll have to blend this shot from today onto the shot from last time, which has to be blended onto the shot from the time before that, and so on. I think I've been out here for 5 or 6 times since the beginning of April, I think, and the transformation out here has been quite remarkable, going from just very few colors and then until today with this very lush green color, and everything just has been blooming out. So now I'll have to line up my shot and then grab it. So this I have right here is just I'm previewing the shot from last time I was here, and just using the live view today to try and frame up the shot using the grid lines on the display right here. Carefully lining up my shot. I can see the tree in the middle here has to be right in the center. Just checking that it's level as well. I think it's a bit too low still. It can take quite some time to line it up. It has to be matched as perfectly as you possibly can to make the post-production easier. This looks pretty close. The tree out here matches quite good, so I'm just gonna try and grab a test shot and see. Then you can just cycle between the two. Pretty close. I think it's a little bit too much to the left, so I'll just correct it. Yeah, that's pretty close. I think it's close enough, because it's impossible to get it 100% right, but it's like 98% perfect. So that should do it, and I'll have to do the final alignment in the post-production. So I'll just get my focus right and doing the lens twists to avoid the aperture flicker. Just gonna program in the interval. 2 seconds should do it. 140 shots, that should be enough. Yeah, let's go. On this next location, things are a bit different, because I chose to use this tree trunk as my place to hold the camera, and I figured that it reliable spot to hold the camera in the same spot every time I get here, because it doesn't really move throughout the season. apart from if I have chosen to place the camera tripod in the grass, for example. The grass is very alive and moves a lot throughout the season, especially in the spring when it starts to grow up really fast, and it's simply impossible to keep the tripod in the same position. So I decided to try this fallen tree. Just points directly out into the meadow, so it works quite well as a leading line. So what I've done on this tree trunk is I've put down a few screws, as you can see here, and there's one there as well. Just some short screws straight into the tree, so I can see where the tripod legs has to stand, and it seems to work quite well because they just stay in place. So just gonna try and set up the camera now and grab my shot. So on this final location of the day, I'll have to put up my camera right here, composition like this. I'll put up my tripod on these three rocks right here, and what I've done is I've drawn just a little circle right here with a permanent marker. I've done the same over here, so camera tripod leg has to be right here, and the same goes for this right here. So it really takes up quite a lot of concentration to align these shots. The more accurate you are with the work out here in the field with the camera, the easier it's going to be in post-production, because you don't have to do as much aligning in After Effects afterwards. So I'll grab my shot right here and finish up for today. Then I'll take you through some of the post-production. I'll just grab my shot and let's move on to the post-production part. Alright, welcome to the post-production part of this seasonal time-lapse project. I'm gonna start with loading my files into Time-lapse. I just have a folder here with 640 frames from the various points in time that I visited the location. So you can see here it's this first one is from April 15th. We have another one that's from April 30th, and so on, finishing off here with the sequence we did just before. So I will actually just edit the full sequence here through Time-lapse. I will actually set a keyframe in the beginning and in the end, each time-lapse clip, so that I can manage the exposure and the settings on each individual sequence. And right here, Time-lapse tells me that there are 9 days apart from these two. So I'll just put a keyframe in the end and in the beginning of each sequence. There we go, and hit save. And then I'll have to drag it to Lightroom. Okay, so all the files have been loaded into Lightroom. I've set the filter to Time-lapse keyframes right here, so I'll just see the frames with the keyframes I set just before. And now I'm gonna edit it with quite a natural look, not too much contrast, not too much saturation and stuff like that, just to get a bit of a flat look for each sequence, and that way it's much more easy to blend them together afterwards. So I'm just going to use the tone curve right here to lower the highlights a little bit, open up the shadows a little bit, maybe change the white balance a little bit, give a little bit more of a cold look, this winter look. And I'm just gonna add a little bit of sharpness and a bit of noise reduction. Remove chromatic aberration. I think that's gonna be pretty much it. Perhaps just take a graduation filter on the sky, just lowering the exposure a little bit, like that. And then copy that to the next. And this one's actually a little bit darker, so I'll just open up the exposure a little bit to make them match, like that. And then the next sequence is gonna be the first frame in the next sequence is gonna be here. So again, I'll copy my settings from this sequence to the next. So we can see that landscape is starting to bloom a little bit more. Push the color temperature a little bit, open up the exposure a little bit, but not too much, because I want these two sequences to be as equal as possible in terms of exposure. Give it a little bit of vibrance maybe. And push the exposure a little bit on this one maybe. And on to the next one. It's really interesting to see the landscape change so dramatically. You don't really see it when you're out there shooting. Looking at the raw files afterwards, it really comes to life. A little bit more temperature, give it a little bit more warm feel. Maybe push the shadows a little bit, because there's quite a large shadow right here. Just brightening that up a little bit. Yeah, they match up quite perfectly. No need to do further right here, and then on to the next one. This is from May 20th, so and again trying to get the exposure to match as good as I can. Push the the temperature a little bit again, and then on to the final one. And that actually looks a bit darker, I think. I think I'll have to raise the shadows a little bit. There we go. Okay, so now I've applied color grading to all the keyframes right here. So I'm just going to run through them real quick to see if the exposure is matching. Of course, it's a bit hard because the seasons are changing, and yeah, the sun's path is changing, and it's really difficult to get every keyframes to match perfectly in terms of exposure. So you just have to live with this natural change in exposure throughout the season. So, but I think it looks quite well. Running through them real quickly right here, the transformation looks amazing, and I think I'll go with this for now. Save the metadata and head back to LR Time-lapse, and then I'll do the auto transition, and LR Time-lapse will start to make the visual preview. That way I can see how the exposure is matching throughout the sequence. LR Time-lapse has finished the visual previews. This way I can get a feel of how the exposure is throughout these 5 sequences. It looks quite good. It's not too bad. It's not 100% perfect, but the clips are going to be blended together using an opacity fade anyway, so I don't think these variations in exposure is going to be visible. Head back to Lightroom and select the full sequence. Select all the photos and hit read metadata from files. Once the metadata has been read, I'll export the full sequence into 16-bit TIFFs and then let it export. So the TIFF sequence has finished exporting. Close down Lightroom and head into After Effects, import TIFF sequence. And create a composition. And now I'd like to split the sequence up into each individual time-lapse sequence. Like this. And then I'll just watch each individual clip and check for flicker and maybe some shakes if some stabilization has to be done or something. Okay, so because there was quite a lot of wind on a few of the days that I visited the location. I'm just going to smooth that out a little bit by applying the effect called CC White Time, and then setting the parameters here for the first frame, 2 forward steps and 0 backward, and turning on the keyframes, going to the final frame and switching to 2 backwards and 0 forwards. So this way it will smooth out the subtle motion that will be on the trees and in the grass. This one right here, there's quite a lot of movement here in the grass in the foreground and in the leaves in the trees. So smoothing that out a little bit will definitely help it look a little bit better. So I'm just gonna copy this effect to here and just adjust the keyframes like this, and I'll apply it to the final shot as well. So right now you can see it looks a bit more smooth here in the grass and in the leaves in the background. And then now actually I'm just gonna export this full composition, this full sequence as a ProRes 4x4 with the trillions of colors right here. And this way I'll get the full quality out of the 16-bit TIFF files. Like this, and hit render. Okay, so I've imported my sequence into After Effects. Now I need to split it up into each individual clip. I'll just go into the footage viewer right here and do the in and out points, and then drag that into the composition. So this way I will have 5 individual composition, each with their own time-lapse clip from each season. And when you've selected the area right here, you can just drag the clip over here, just to the composition icon. It will only pick the work area that you've marked right here. I'll pick the last one. Now I have 5 individual compositions here. I'll just make a new composition, 4096 and 2304, and the frame rate that matches my clips right there. And then I can drag each individual clip into the composition. And I'll just scale down each clip with the Control Shift Alt and H. Now I have to do the aligning. So I'll go to full resolution, and I'll put this next clip on top of the first clip. T for the opacity, and drag that down to 60. Actually just find a point in the middle of the frame and make that fit into the layer down below. You can see the point right here. Just adjust it a little bit using the arrow keys. And I think I'll actually grab a snapshot using Shift and F5. This way you will grab a snapshot in After Effects. And if I hold down F5, it will automatically snap back to the snapshot. This way I can quickly review the clip that is underneath. I think there is a bit of rotation that has to be fixed. That looks better. Let's see. Maybe it has to go up a little bit and a little bit to the left. A little bit more up, maybe. Yeah, right here it looks like it's perfectly aligned. I think that will be good for now. So what I'll do now is I'll grab the corner pin effect, drag onto the top layer, the layer that I have to fit onto the layer below. And then I'll just look at the corners out here. It's not perfect right here, but it is very close. Let's see. So what I can do here is hit the Y key and then grab this little button up here. And then by that way I can drag the corner a little bit, only affecting the corner actually of the frame. That was a bit too much, I think. Maybe a little bit further out to the left like this. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And I think I'll drag this one just a little bit up. That was too much, obviously. You just have to try a way around this and see when the match is perfect. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And over here it's not perfect, but I think it's like the wind in the trees and stuff will make it move a little bit. The most important thing is that the match is perfect in the middle of the frame. I think I have to move it a little bit again. Yeah, because of the distortion in the lens, and sometimes the setup of the tripod is not 100% similar as to the time before that I visited the location. So you just have to compromise a little bit by trying to align it as good as you can right here. Yeah, it's close to perfect. So I'll just continue on to the next clip like this. Grab a snapshot, a new snapshot of this clip, and then I can review the new clip with a snapshot from the clip below it. And again, trying to fit it in the middle of the frame. And let's see. The rotation looks good. I think there's a little bit of a mismatch over here. So again, I'll grab the corner pin effect, hit the Y key and drag this corner just a little bit in. That looks good. Over here it's actually a perfect match, I think. Let's see. Maybe that was actually a bit too far. Just drag it out a little bit again. It looks pretty clean, I think. So let's just check again in the middle of the frame. So sometimes you have to just move it back after you've done the corner pin, like that. An almost perfect match here between the two seasons. And now I'll just continue on with the final two sequences and make them match with the same procedure. Okay, so now I've tried to match up all the sequences right here. I'll just try to make a fade between the two, maybe an opacity fade. Drag this one in here maybe. Let's try an opacity fade, just see how it looks. Take this down to half resolution. It should be enough just for the preview. So it looks pretty nice. I think the transition is a bit too quick for this one, so I think it will look better if it just fades out more slowly. Yeah, it's not too bad. Maybe I should try to just add this key light right here, because it could be interesting to try and remove the sky, because the sky here is cloudy. Over here it's more clear, so perhaps it will make the transition more smooth if I just try and remove the sky right here. So I picked the key light effect. Gonna try and see if I can remove the sky like this. It's not too bad. Maybe turn the balance down a little bit, and let's drag the layer on top of the other. It's not too bad. I think it will work. I can try and adjust the blur a little bit. Yeah, I think around 25 in the blur is good, so that the edge right here won't get too sharp. I'll just have to do a reverse opacity fade right here on the keyed clip. I'll just mingle a little bit around with the layers here to get the fade between them as smooth as possible. It looks pretty good. What I'll do now is I'll just take the other sequences right here and put on top. And they're already matched and aligned, so I can just play around with the opacity fade right here. Just trying around, seeing which timing will work until I'm happy with it. Yeah, this looks pretty good, I think. I may have to do a little bit more fiddling around with it, just adjusting a little bit, but with the opacity fades and stuff. But I think it looks, I think it's very close to finished. So I think I'm gonna leave you with that. Thank you for watching in this vlog and tutorial workflow video-ish. I hope you learned something new, maybe got a little bit of inspiration to do seasonal time lapses yourself. Hopefully. Thank you for joining.